You're watching Saturday Anime on the Sci-Fi Channel.
I guess what we haven't mentioned also is the fact Gold Roger, he buried his treasure, which is the One Piece, at the Grand Line. And the Grand Line is like, I don't know, it's like the Bermuda Triangle where like ships go to die and nobody goes there because it's really fucked up.
You see just how fucked up the Grand Line can be when you encounter the guy that cut Don Krieg's ship in half with just a sword with Hawkeye's Mihawk. The man Zoro has sworn to take on and defeat, and to show you just how incredibly powerful these pirates are when it comes to the Grand Line, he just takes like a penknife and beats Zoro with it. And that's one of the things, again, that Ichiro Oda is very good at, is just planting these seeds as it goes along to give you a little taste of what you're in for. You get a taste of that Grand Line through the actions of Mihawk and him completely and utterly wrecking Zoro.
Yeah, I think Zoro's interaction with Mihawk is probably the most brutal interaction he has, and I think it does reinforce the idea that we see later on where Bellemere is saying, get through the bad times to get to the good. We see that in Zoro's fight with Mihawk. Mihawk is beating the shit out of him, but Zoro is not giving up. He keeps falling down, he gets back up, and he keeps going after Mihawk. And Mihawk respects him after that because he is trying, he is determined. Like Luffy, he is not taking no for an answer.
Zoro will not back down, will not yield, and it's all epitomized, in my opinion, from the moment Mihawk decides, you know what, I'm gonna use my gigantic black sword on you because I respect you. And Zoro simply stands back up, opens his arms out wide, smiles, and tells Mihawk, a scar on the back is a swordsman's shame. And Mihawk just slashes him, and Zoro, to his credit, does not die. He gets back up. It takes him a while, but he does get back up. And that alone shows you the resolve that Zoro carries with him, and the resolve that Luffy's been looking for and sees in his crew. He sees people that are not going to go and back down despite insurmountable odds. He sees people that will not just support him, but they support each other in their own ways. Luffy sees that drive in these people. He's a lot more insightful than I think a lot of people give him credit for. I think Luffy's a lot more insightful than he realizes he is. And he sees that determination that's in them and decides, that's what I want with my crew. But he also wants to go and not just have them support him, he wants to support them as well and wants to support them accomplishing their dreams. And that's what any great leader should do. He should go and not just be on the lookout for himself, but he should also help motivate and give a hand and help out to the people that may need it. Luffy does that with a lot of the people he encounters, people that aren't even part of his crew. He does that with Kobe, and through that, Kobe's able to go and find the means to take his dream by the horns and sign up to join the Marines. Luffy doesn't even care if this means that Kobe's gonna be an enemy someday. Luffy just sees him and says, you know what, you do you, that's awesome.
Luffy is the opposite of Denji from Chainsaw Man, where Denji creates all these obstacles that prevent him from moving forward. Luffy sees no obstacles whatsoever. He just plows forward and he will not accept any setback. That is the strength he provides within this group of people. I think Zoro and Sanji, he is kind of more providing them with an opportunity, but you see the real growth with his effect on Usopp and Nami, where Usopp is able to go from not being this cowardly liar to being a real pirate, and then Nami is actually free from this position that has kind of defined her whole life. In their lives, I feel like he has the biggest effect.
I would say it's most noticeable with them. I would say maybe it's the most subtle with Sanji, but Sanji's one of my favorite characters in the whole series. A guy that simps for redheads, I identify with that a lot, so it really is most visible with Usopp and Nami. I think it's there also with Sanji and Zoro. He helps kind of change them for the better. I think it's more easily seen with Sanji than it is Zoro, because Zoro's already in this position that all he needs is just someone to go and point him in the right direction. Like I was saying before, Sanji was just stagnating at the Baratier.
I guess I would say the difference between Sanji and Zoro is that it almost seems like Zoro's goal is more conceptual. He just wants to be the greatest swordsman. And so he could either do that alone or he could do that helping Luffy. Sanji's one of these people people who, like, he wasn't realizing his full potential because he felt so indebted to Zeph that he felt like he needed to stay there. And at some point, maybe that was just his excuse to stay there because maybe he was afraid. When Luffy comes into Sanji's life, he's able to give him his ability to realize his dream. I think Zoro was just doing what he wanted to do anyway. He's just helping Luffy now.
And it leads to one of the most interesting scenes in the Baratier arc after Zoro's gotten slashed by Mihawk and he's falling back into the sea and just about ready to drown. And Sanji shouts at him, "This is what following your dream is going to get you. You're better off not following it. You'll stay alive longer." And it takes Luffy and seeing him not stopping against Don Krieg to realize that, oh shit, maybe I'm wrong. He realizes maybe a little later after the fight with Don Krieg just how much he actually has been wasting his potential. Luffy helps him finally see that, like you said.
And it also takes the crew, the Baratier, to pretend like they hate Sanji and his cooking to push him out. It actually makes a lot of sense now when you look at his relationship with Nami. Sanji is fucking clingy. He's clingy to Zeph. He's clingy to Nami. He needs that push to get him out there so he will do what he wants to do. He needs someone to give him permission to follow his dreams.
That's a really neat way of looking at Sanji being a simp. I'd never thought of connecting what he saw as his need to go and stay at the Baratier and connecting that with his clinginess to Nami. That's actually really brilliant there. I never thought of that. Apropos of nothing, one of the things that I was enjoying the most in this rewatch was going through the dub, and there's a lot of ADV alumni. The guy that plays Gin was the voice of Hayashida in Cromartie High School, which is a severely underrated anime as far as I'm concerned. Chris Ayers plays either Yosaku or Johnny, and Yosaku and Johnny are the ones that really show that more pirate side of things, as well as laying some seeds as well. When we first encounter them, one of them he's not dying, but he's suffering from scurvy, which is pretty common back in the days of pirates, and makes everyone there think like, at some point we gotta find a doctor, right? We're gonna have to bring a doctor as a crew member. And again, Oda is such a master at planting those seeds, and eventually these things will all start to go and blossom as you keep reading, and I can't wait to see what you think as it goes on.
One thing I hope they explain, just this first season, Usopp's father seems like a real asshole, where he leaves his wife where she's fucking dying because this motherfucker's gotta live his dream to be a pirate. It's like, dude, you couldn't just stay here till she kicked the bucket, then leave? Like, you had to leave now? I'm assuming they're gonna address that later on.
I hope so. It's been 25 years, they haven't addressed it yet, but I'm looking forward to when they do.
So I guess he's just a jerk.
I hope not. I really hope not.
Because it's like, this dude is not a good dude. Like, this sounds like a pretty fucked up guy where he just leaves his family.
To be fair, there's moments there in the manga, well, no, it's both the manga and the anime, that show you just how dangerous the red-haired pirates are, where you have the big dude that's always eating, Lucky Roo. While Shanks is talking to one of the pirates there, Lucky Roo just walks up and just shoots him in the head. These are still pirates when you get down to it. They are not all going to be really genuinely good people, which I think is why it makes Luffy's crew stand out all the more.
What is Oda saying about people? So if it's a story about pushing through obstacles and following your dreams, now we also have the fact that these pirates are also ruthless. So it's almost acknowledging that there are consequences, or at the very least, if you're going to pursue your dreams, just like what you said with Sanji yelling, "This is what happens to you," like, there are going to be negative effects from pursuing your goals, but it's just something you're going to have to accept.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, I would say that the red-haired pirates are pretty much just reality. That's what they represent in some ways. Not like a hurdle that needs to be overcome, but just sometimes you're going to encounter some rather unpleasant things in your journey of life. It may be ugly, but as long as you continue to push through and persevere, you'll reach those goals. You can achieve that dream. What sets up the final arc of East Blue is Loguetown, or as I've come to look at it, the JRPG stop point to go and upgrade your gear.
Yeah, no, the whole first season does feel like a JRPG where Luffy is the main character going to the different towns and he's assembling his team. And now the whole team goes to Loguetown to put their gear together and they're going to embark on the epic quest.
They all get their gear upgrades. Usopp gets a new pair of goggles. Zoro gets himself 2 new swords in a moment that starts to really lay out some lore in the world with the history of some of the swords and just what they may be about. One of his swords being cursed. One of my favorite scenes in that arc when Zoro just decides, all right, I'm gonna see what's stronger, the curse or my luck. Tosses the sword, holds out his arm, and if the sword falls down and chops his arm off, he's ready to just say, All right, well, I guess that didn't work. And it's such a tense moment, and it feels like something that you could almost see in an RPG. Push the button to make sure that the sword does not cut your arm off.
Yeah, that scene is very cool. And everybody in that sequence, they're all doing their own thing. We see Nami dress shopping. Like you said, Usopp is getting new goggles. And then we see Luffy go to the platform where Gold Rogers was executed. That is a sequence that I think works better in the anime because we get all these flashbacks of Gold Roger and his execution. And in the manga, they don't give you any flashbacks. It's just kind of told in the dialogue.
They introduced the character of Smoker a lot more early on in the anime, and I think it's to the story's benefit there because it serves two purposes. It starts to really establish just what Gold Roger meant in this world and just what he represented and just how he changed the world. And it also sets up Smoker, who is this Marine that's one of the ocean police, I guess you could call, and it sets up another threat for the crew. There's no way you can figure out just what the hell they can do to stop this guy because he has the ability to turn himself to smoke. But the most important thing is that he gives us this flashback when he was there at Gold Roger's execution, and it's done really, really well. I think my favorite moment is as you see young Smoker come out of the crowd and just look up and sees Gold Roger walk right by him, and Roger just looks down, sees him, and they just make this eye contact, and it's like having a hurricane recognize you as a person, you know?
It basically paints the picture that a Smoker is going to be a force to be reckoned with later in the story.
Yeah, he's been around, he's seen a lot of shit go down, and he knows how to handle himself. And when he encounters Luffy, Luffy doesn't have an answer for him. Luffy pretty much solidly gets his ass kicked.
He's just saved by that dude in the cloak who basically tells the other guy to let him go, and that's why he gets away.
The gentleman named Dragon, who, much like finding out why Usopp left, 25 years later, know very little about the man Dragon. But I look forward to when that also gets revealed someday.